Hi, I'm Marc Koska. I'm delighted to welcome you to this series of videos that are going to look at innovation, manufacturing, and how we can help develop the world of safer and more accessible injections for all. This is going to be a very interesting series using people inside and outside the ApiJect group, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy these conversations. So, Rory, thanks. It's lovely to see you. I'm glad you got the memo about the check shirt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this going to?
No, not at all. We're both wearing check
exactly.
shirts.
No. I thought we might be having some aliasing problems.
No, great.
Problem at all.
Great. No, apparently that's all gone now with modern technology.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about. So I hope you've enjoyed our sort of quick tour about what we're up to.
I'm astonished because
been a couple of years since you've had a check-in, isn't it?
But I mean, you seem to have sort of covered the waterfront in terms of practically every form of injection administration of every kind of drug. You seem to have pretty much covered all the bases.
Well, we've looked at everything, and there's certainly possibilities depending on what our ultimate customer wants, and
yes.
to their brand or their logo or whatever. So we've certainly looked at everything from dry drugs, which are called lyophilized, which you reconstitute just before you inject them with water.
That's measles, for example, is it?
Measles is one example. And we've looked at all the different needle lengths which target different parts of your body. So, whether you're giving into a vein, a muscle, a fat layer, or into the surface. So we can also do that. So pretty much everything is possible with this. And it's an amazing format. It's very, very flexible, as you've just seen. We can make any shape, any size, up to, 3 or 4 mil, which is the normal injection size. So, we're having fun and, designing lots of stuff that fits nearly every need.
And the conditions are, it can't be reused, single use. Effectively, this is produced on a belt and it's filled and sealed in the same process as well.
Yeah, it's all done in a matter of seconds. It's sterile inside. It's less plastic than a syringe. You sort of compare it to a syringe. You can see that the syringe you would normally use to dispense, we use the vial that it comes in. So it's what we call a pre-filled format, a pre-filled syringe. And now, of course, we got the weighty challenge of the real build-up of the business, so that we get cash flow and get into cash flow positive. And we're at that stage where we've got probably 30 or 40 customers on our hit list. Many of them are more advanced than others. So we've got 4 or 5 prime candidates, all big names that, we're not really at liberty to discuss, but household names as well as the smaller startups. And this team here at Labs are very focused on the developing world as well, which is sort of all our backgrounds comes from that end. But we have a team in America who are focused on the bigger houses, as it were.
But I mean, this is better than glass in pretty much every respect, in terms of everything to do with weight, environmental consequences. You made the point that glass actually contaminates slightly.
Yeah. And it flakes off, and you can get particles being released from the glass wall into the drug. So but look, glass has done an amazing job for 100 years. There's nothing that is wrong with glass until there's a better system. And we believe this is the better system. So it's fascinating having you visit, but also, your views on how disruptive technologies handle these challenges when you come into a big, and especially the most profitable industry in the world, pharmaceuticals.
Well, I think one of the things that always happens, which fascinates me, is that when we look back on major innovations retrospectively, we actually telescope in our minds the time it takes to get the behavior adopted. So, I mean, if you take funnily enough, in exactly this field, pretty much a contender for the best idea anybody's ever had, which was smallpox vaccination, okay, in terms of its consequences, okay. We always assume that Jenner comes along, proves it with a couple of experiments, medical fraternity and everybody else goes, thank God for that, that's a slam dunk, job done, nothing to see here, off we go. And then he realized that he had to spend most of his life effectively fighting what you might call the forces of the status quo, which are always powerful. And they're powerful for a reason in one sense, in that we've evolved that two of the biggest forces that drive our behavior are habit and social proof. In other words, have I done it before? Does everybody else do it? And those work on us almost at an unconscious level, that we feel fundamentally uneasy doing things that other people don't do. Okay. We're fundamentally averse to blame, and we feel fundamentally uncomfortable doing something different when we've done something that's been proven to work reasonably well, for the previous 10 years or 20 years of our career or whatever. Yeah. And so you have these two forces, and we imagine when we look back, I mean, even the iPhone was not instantaneously adopted. Okay, I can actually remember, this is within my own lifetime. I used a mobile phone on Oxford Street in 1989, and two people shouted abuse at me from passing cars. Okay, we will imagine in 20 or 30 years' time that basically history was there weren't mobile phones, and then the mobile phone was invented, and everybody got one. That's how we look back. You can see huge collections of advertisements encouraging people to get electricity in their homes, as if it's a kind of luxury purchase, okay, not a necessity. I spent a large part of the kind of, I suppose, late 90s, early 2000s, encouraging people to get home internet access, which now seems comical, okay? It's almost become a utility. But I think we always underestimate the difficulty of getting people to change their behavior, particularly in an institutional setting and at scale, where after all, the decisions are a lot more complicated and where risk aversion is a lot stronger than it might be in consumer behavior. And we always underestimate the time it takes. And I think we also underestimate the extent to which really successful inventors are also salesmen. I mean, Edison is a very extreme case. I mean, his first job, I think, was with Procter and Gamble. So, there's one thing you learn at Procter and Gamble, it's how to sell things. Yeah. Ford, actually, we forget how innovative the marketing of the Model T was. We always look at it as if it was just a slam, ooh, look, cheap form of transportation. There was huge amounts of inventiveness around finance, around creating dealer networks, distribution, and everything else. And I always joke about this. My wife's a vicar in the Church of England, and I always tease her by pointing out that no one would have heard of Jesus if it wasn't for St. Paul. That you actually, there's what you might call, there's the act of genius, but there's also the subsequent persuasion. Yeah. You see that with Darwin and Huxley. Yeah. You have the person who has the idea and the people who have to go and actually bed it in and get people to accept it. Yeah. And that second process is, I think we forget in every case. I mean, there's a Gilray cartoon ridiculing vaccination, showing aristocrats lining up, being injected by Dr. Jenner, and then slowly turning into cows or bulls, as they walk out of the room. Okay, yeah. That's cartoon. That's early anti-vaxxing material, if you want. Okay, and the reason I always say this is because very occasionally, I think there are things that completely sell themselves. Equally, I think there are utterly brilliant products where the pace of adoption is weirdly slow. I always joke about this with Japanese toilets. Once you've had one, there's no going back. Okay, there's no going back to dry wiping. Yeah. But nonetheless, you have this weird thing where in the West, i.e. in Europe and the United States,
not accepted.
Not accepted at all, for reasons that are not rational, really.
I've always enjoyed every trip to Japan and Korea.
Precisely for that. Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely right. And actually, of course, the Middle East has, the bum gun, which is a reasonable kind of substitute. So this, and I was weirdly, one of the things which I've actually seen through as an innovation being adopted in the course of my life was the air fryer, where I was a very, very early adopter and evangelist. And then I noticed that I gave one to my father, who was generally a bit of not a Luddite, but he was skeptical about new ideas. He also became an evangelist and went around the octogenarians of the Wye Valley, basically, preaching the air fryer message.
You just converted me in the last 3 seconds.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm going to try one.
Here's a really interesting thing, which is something we don't look at nearly enough, okay? With anything new, there are really two things that mark out a successful innovation. Forget the speed of adoption, because the thing that's actually being a problem with speed of adoption. There are lots of weird psychological and kind of what you might call societal factors that may delay speed of adoption. The two things are, I think, repeat use and repeat purchase are the two really, really interesting
because it's been tried and used.
I've done it, I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. And two areas where I think it's interesting looking at that is electric car sales have supposedly, not to the extent that journalists have made out, have sort of fallen off a cliff. They've kind of run out of wealthy early adopters in the car market, and they've now reached that slight stalling point, which often happens. But nobody who's gone, well, that's not quite true, but a tiny percentage of people who've had an electric car now say they'd go back to fossil fuel cars.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, it's nothing to do with environmentalism, by the way. I'd make that point, or very little to do with it. It's just that it's a better driving experience, silence, performance, a whole mix of factors. It's just nicer to drive an electric car. And what I noticed about air fryers is I said, look, I know you. I went to Philips. They never listened. They never actually advertised these things. I said, look, I know you're not selling very many of these. They were big in Asia, but tiny in Europe. I said, I know you're not selling very many of these, but it isn't that common to have a product where a significant percentage of the people who buy one effectively become kind of dewy-eyed and evangelical about how it's changed my life. Okay, I mean, ostensibly it's pretty simple. It's a very powerful fan oven in a small container.
Yes.
And so I think there's a really interesting thing, which is the real question to ask in innovation is when you get people to try it in whatever numbers, do they come back? And if you can say, look, nobody who tries this is reverting,
that's
then
the tipping point.
That's you're onto something, definitely.
Yeah. Good. Well, I mean, let's carry on the conversation another time.
We shall, but I mean, I'm astonished. I mean, this has been what I suppose the first physical demonstration I've had in a year or so, and the potential here, particularly given the extraordinary gains you can enjoy in kind of manufacturing, and potentially, mobility of manufacturing. And flexibility of manufacturing. So you can change from manufacturing vaccine A to vaccine B, in some cases more or less instantaneously.
Kind of an hour. Yeah.
An hour.
Lunch break.
That's actually, I suppose, when you look at it through the lens of complexity, that's actually a much bigger deal than it at first seems.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Fascinating.
Rory, brilliant to have you.
Joy. Thank you very much indeed.
Lovely for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.